I never thought I'd be standing in the middle of Westfield Shopping Center watching my ex-wife get handcuffed by mall security. But there I was, holding my 7-year-old daughter Emma's hand, trying to process what had just happened. Let me back up. My name is David, and I'm a 34-year-old software engineer living in Denver, Colorado. 3 years ago, I divorced my ex-wife Sarah after realizing that her entitled behavior wasn't just a phase, it was her personality. Sarah had always acted like the world owed her something, but after our divorce, she seemed to double down on that attitude. The custody arrangement was simple, alternating weekends and holidays. This particular Saturday in November, I was supposed to pick up Emma from Sarah's apartment at 2 p.m. for my weekend. When I arrived, Emma came running out with her little backpack, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Daddy!" she squealed, jumping into my arms. Mommy said we can't go to the mall today because she needs to go shopping first. I looked up to see Sarah strutting toward my car, dressed in her usual "I'm better than everyone" outfit. Designer jeans, oversized sunglasses, and a handbag that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, and she had that familiar smirk that used to make my stomach turn. "David," she said, not even bothering with a greeting, "I need to stop by the mall before you take Emma. I have some returns to make, and I refuse to waste my time doing it on my own schedule." I checked my watch. "Sarah, it's already 2:15, and we agreed on 2 p.m. sharp. Emma and I have plans." "Oh, please," she rolled her eyes dramatically. "Your plans can wait. This is important. I bought a dress for my sister's wedding, and it doesn't fit right. The store needs to fix this immediately." Emma tugged on my shirt. "Daddy, can we just go with Mommy? I want to see the toy store." Against my better judgment, I agreed. Sarah climbed into the passenger seat of my Honda Civic, immediately wrinkling her nose. "God, David, when are you going to get a real car? This thing is embarrassing." The drive to Westfield was tense. Sarah spent the entire 15 minutes criticizing everything from my driving to the radio station to the fact that I hadn't gotten my hair cut recently. Emma, bless her heart, tried to lighten the mood by singing songs from her favorite Disney movies. When we arrived at the mall, Sarah immediately took charge. "We're going to Nordstrom first. I need to return this dress, and I expect them to give me a full refund plus compensation for my time." "Compensation for your time?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Of course. I had to drive all the way here because their dress didn't fit properly. That's their fault, not mine." As we walked through the mall, I noticed other shoppers staring at Sarah. She walked with this exaggerated confidence, her heels clicking loudly on the tile floor, talking loudly on her phone about how busy and important she was. Emma stayed close to me, seeming embarrassed by her mother's behavior. We reached Nordstrom, and Sarah marched straight to the customer service counter where a young woman named Jessica was helping another customer. Sarah didn't wait in line. She never did. "Excuse me?" Sarah interrupted loudly. "I need to return this dress immediately." "I don't have time to wait." Jessica looked up politely. "Ma'am, I'll be happy to help you as soon as I finish with this customer." Sarah's face reddened. "Do you know who I am? I spend thousands of dollars in this store every year. I shouldn't have to wait behind these people." The customer Jessica was helping, an elderly woman buying a birthday gift for her granddaughter, looked shocked. Jessica maintained her professional composure, but I could see the frustration in her eyes. "I understand you're in a hurry, ma'am, but I need to help customers in the order they arrived. It'll just be a few more minutes." That's when Sarah snapped. And that's when I realized this shopping trip was about to become something much, much worse. "A few more minutes?" Sarah's voice rose to a pitch that made nearby shoppers turn and stare. "I don't think you understand the situation here. I am a VIP customer, and I demand to be treated as such." Jessica, who couldn't have been more than 22, remained remarkably calm. "Ma'am, I appreciate your business, but our policy is to serve customers in order. I promise I'll help you right after." "Your policy?" Sarah slammed her designer handbag on the counter, causing Emma to flinch beside me. "Your policy is to treat paying customers like garbage? I want to speak to your manager. Now!" The elderly woman Jessica had been helping quietly stepped aside, clearly uncomfortable with the scene Sarah was creating. I gently placed my hand on Sarah's shoulder, trying to diffuse the situation. "Sarah, please. Emma's right here. Let's just wait our turn." She whirled around to face me, her eyes blazing with anger. "Don't you dare tell me how to behave, David. This is exactly why our marriage failed. You have no backbone. You let people walk all over you." Mommy, please don't yell," Emma whispered, tears starting to form in her eyes. But Sarah was just getting started. She turned back to Jessica, who was now visibly shaken. "I'm going to make sure you lose your job over this. Do you have any idea what kind of influence I have in this city?" "Ma'am, please lower your voice," Jessica said, her professional smile wavering. "I've called my manager. She'll be here in just a moment." "She better be," Sarah snarled. Then she did something that made my blood run cold. She reached across the counter and grabbed the receipt from the elderly woman's transaction. "What's this woman buying that's so important? A cheap little gift? I'm returning a $300 dress." Sarah, give that back, I said firmly, but she ignored me. The elderly woman, who I later learned was named Margaret, spoke up quietly. Miss, that's my receipt. I'm just buying a birthday present for my granddaughter. Sarah looked at Margaret with pure disdain. Well, maybe you should shop somewhere more appropriate for your budget. This is Nordstrom, not Walmart. The silence that followed was deafening. Every person within earshot had stopped what they were doing to stare at Sarah. I felt Emma's small hand squeeze mine tighter. Sarah, I said, my voice low and warning. Apologize. Right now. Apologize? She laughed bitterly. For what? For expecting decent service? For pointing out that some people don't belong in upscale stores? That's when the manager arrived. Michelle, according to her name tag, was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She took one look at the scene and immediately assessed the situation. What seems to be the problem here? Michelle asked calmly. Sarah immediately launched into her tirade. Your employee here has been incredibly rude and unprofessional. She's making me wait behind customers who clearly don't spend as much money as I do. I demand a full refund for this dress, plus compensation for the humiliation I've suffered. Michelle looked at Jessica, who quietly explained what had actually happened. Then Michelle turned to Sarah with a patient but firm expression. Ma'am, I understand you're frustrated, but we serve all our customers with equal respect, regardless of their purchase amount. I'd be happy to process your return, but I need you to treat my staff and other customers with courtesy. Sarah's face turned an alarming shade of red. Courtesy? You want to talk about courtesy? I've been shopping here for years, and this is how you treat me? Actually, Michelle said, checking her computer, according to our records, you've made 3 purchases in the past 2 years, and 2 of them were returns where you demanded refunds after wearing the items. The crowd that had gathered gasped audibly. Sarah's mouth fell open, but Michelle wasn't finished. And both times, you were asked to leave after causing disturbances similar to this one. Sarah's entitlement reached a new level. That's impossible. I spend thousands here. Check again. But Michelle had already turned to security. I saw the mall security guard approaching, and I knew this was about to get much worse. The security guard, a tall man in his 50s named Officer Martinez, approached our group with the measured steps of someone who dealt with difficult customers before. Sarah, however, seemed to interpret his arrival as vindication. Finally, she exclaimed dramatically. Someone in authority. Officer, I need you to arrest these people for harassment and discrimination. Officer Martinez looked confused. Ma'am, I'm here because we received reports of a disturbance. Can you please tell me what's happening? Michelle stepped forward. This customer is causing a scene, making discriminatory comments toward other shoppers, and refusing to follow basic store policies. Discriminatory? Sarah's voice reached a new octave. I haven't discriminated against anyone. I simply pointed out that some people should shop within their means. Margaret, the elderly woman who had been verbally attacked, finally spoke up. Officer, this woman said I don't belong in this store because I was buying an inexpensive gift for my granddaughter. Officer Martinez turned to Sarah. Ma'am, is this true? I was simply making an observation, Sarah replied haughtily. If that's discrimination, then truth is discrimination. I watched in horror as Emma began to cry. The combination of her mother's behavior and the growing crowd of onlookers was overwhelming for a 7-year-old. I knelt down to comfort her, but Sarah wasn't done. You know what? She announced to the entire crowd. I'm going to call the police. Real police, not mall security. This is harassment, and I'm being targeted because I'm a successful woman who demands quality service. Officer Martinez sighed. Ma'am, I am real police. I'm an off-duty Denver police officer working security here, and based on what I've witnessed, you're the one who needs to calm down. Sarah's face went pale for a moment, but her entitlement quickly returned. Then you should understand that I'm the victim here. These people are ganging up on me. Mommy, Emma sobbed, can we please just go home? Sarah barely glanced at her daughter. Emma, stop crying. Mommy's handling this. That's when I'd had enough. Sarah, look at what you're doing to our daughter. She's terrified. Our daughter needs to learn that sometimes you have to fight for what's right, Sarah shot back. I'm teaching her to stand up for herself. You're teaching her to be cruel to innocent people, I replied, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Sarah's response was to turn to Officer Martinez with a new strategy. Officer, my ex-husband is harassing me. I want him arrested for interfering with my shopping. The absurdity of the request caused several people in the crowd to laugh out loud. Officer Martinez was not amused. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to gather your things and leave the store. You're disrupting business and making other customers uncomfortable. I will not leave until I get my refund and an apology, Sarah declared, crossing her arms defiantly. Michelle stepped forward. Ma'am, we're no longer able to process your return today. You'll need to come back another time when you can behave appropriately. That's when Sarah completely lost it. She grabbed the dress from her bag and threw it at Michelle. This is discrimination. This is harassment. I'm calling my lawyer. She pulled out her phone and started dialing, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. Yes, I need to speak to someone about a discrimination case. I'm being harassed at Nordstrom for being a white woman. Officer Martinez had heard enough. Ma'am, you need to leave now, or I'll have to escort you out. Sarah looked at him with genuine shock. You can't make me leave. I'm a customer. Actually, I can. This is private property, and you're disturbing the peace. But Sarah had one more card to play. She turned to the crowd that had gathered and raised her voice. Everyone needs to see this. This is how they treat customers at Nordstrom. They're racist and discriminatory. She started filming with her phone, panning across the faces of the staff and customers. I'm going to post this everywhere. Social media, Yelp, Google reviews. Everyone will know how this store treats people. That's when Margaret, the elderly woman Sarah had insulted, stepped forward. Honey, she said gently, I think you should listen to your daughter. She just wants to go home. Sarah pointed her phone at Margaret. And you started this whole thing. You should be ashamed of yourself. Officer Martinez reached for his radio, and I knew we were about to cross a line from which there would be no return. Sarah, please, I pleaded one last time. Look at Emma. She's terrified. Let's just go. But Sarah was beyond reason. She had started live streaming on her phone, addressing her followers with the righteous indignation of someone who truly believed she was the victim. Everyone watching this needs to see what's happening, she announced to her phone. I'm being discriminated against at Nordstrom for being a successful woman. The police are threatening to arrest me for trying to return a dress. Officer Martinez stepped closer. Ma'am, I'm giving you one final warning. End the live stream and leave the store peacefully, or I'll have to place you under arrest. Sarah's eyes lit up with a twisted sense of victory. Arrest me? For what? For being a customer? This is perfect. Everyone's going to see this. She turned her phone toward Officer Martinez. Say that again. Tell everyone how you're threatening to arrest an innocent woman. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Sarah's live stream was getting comments, but they weren't the supportive messages she was expecting. I could see the screen over her shoulder, and the comments were brutal. Lady, you're being awful to everyone around you. Someone get that poor kid out of there. This is so embarrassing to watch. You're the problem, not them. But Sarah wasn't reading the comments. She was too caught up in her performance. I want everyone to remember this moment, she declared dramatically. This is how they treat hardworking Americans who just want decent service. Officer Martinez had clearly reached his limit. Ma'am, you're under arrest for disturbing the peace and trespassing. Sarah's face went from triumphant to shocked in an instant. You can't arrest me. I'm the victim here. As Officer Martinez approached with handcuffs, Sarah backed away, still filming. This is police brutality. Everyone's seeing this. Emma was now sobbing uncontrollably. I picked her up and held her close, trying to shield her from the scene her mother was creating. The crowd had grown larger, with people filming on their phones. Mommy, stop! Emma cried out. Please stop! For a brief moment, Sarah's facade cracked. She looked at Emma, and I saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes. But it was too late. Officer Martinez was already reading her rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Sarah's live stream was still running as the handcuffs clicked into place. She looked directly into the camera with a mixture of defiance and panic. This is what happens when you stand up for yourself in America, she said, her voice shaking. Remember this moment. But the comments on her live stream told a different story. Someone had recorded the entire incident and was already sharing it across social media platforms. The hashtag #DasNordstromKaren was trending within hours. As Sarah was led away by Officer Martinez, she turned back to me and Emma. David, get me a lawyer. This is all your fault. I stood there holding my daughter, watching my ex-wife being escorted through the mall in handcuffs, still believing she was the victim of some grand conspiracy. Michelle approached us after Sarah had been removed. I'm so sorry your daughter had to see that, she said kindly. Is there anything we can do for you? Emma looked up at me with red, puffy eyes. Daddy, why was Mommy being so mean to everyone? I didn't have a good answer for that. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that sometimes people get so caught up in their own sense of entitlement that they forget to be human? Within 24 hours, Sarah's live stream had been viewed over 2 million times. But instead of the sympathy she'd expected, the public reaction was overwhelmingly negative. Local news stations picked up the story. The Denver Post ran an article titled, Local Woman Arrested After Mall Meltdown. The comment sections were filled with people expressing sympathy for Emma and criticism of Sarah's behavior. Sarah spent the night in jail and was released the next morning on bail. She called me, still convinced that she was the victim of a vast conspiracy. David, everyone's against me, she said, her voice hoarse from crying. The whole internet is lying about what happened. Sarah, I said gently, maybe it's time to think about getting some help. Emma was traumatized by what happened. Emma will understand when she's older, Sarah replied defensively. I was fighting for what's right, but the damage was done. The custody hearing the following month was brief. The judge had seen the video. Sarah's supervised visitation was reduced. and she was ordered to attend anger management classes. 3 months later, Sarah moved to Phoenix, claiming she needed a fresh start. Emma and I still live in Denver, and we're doing well. Emma's in therapy, working through the trauma of that day at the mall. Sometimes, when we drive past Westfield Shopping Center, Emma asks if we can go in. We do, and she always wants to stop by Nordstrom to say hello to Jessica, who's been promoted to assistant manager. Margaret, the elderly woman Sarah insulted, has become an unexpected friend. She still shops at Nordstrom, and she always asks about Emma when we see her. As for Sarah, she occasionally posts on social media about her new life in Phoenix, but she's never acknowledged what really happened that day at the mall. She still believes she was the victim, but the rest of us know the truth. Sometimes the consequences of our actions catch up with us in ways we never expect. And sometimes the person we think we are is very different from the person everyone else sees. Emma is learning that lesson too, but in a healthier way. She's learning that kindness matters, that everyone deserves respect, and that how we treat others says everything about who we are. That's a lesson I wish her mother had learned before it was too late.